What's up YouTube, Deaddraw here. Welcome to Yugioh University. This is a new series on the channel that's going to be dedicated to helping you guys get better at the game. Not only get better, but being able to understand the game better, since the game can be extremely complicated in many cases, especially when a colon and semicolon means the difference of how a card activates and resolves. The goal of the series is to have multiple shorter videos that will help you guys understand how to read problem-solving card text and just understand other rulings as well. Now, what is problem-solving card text? Problem-solving card text was introduced in 2011. This was introduced to help the cards be easier to read and understand of how to activate and resolve their effects. Before this, there was no standardized way of writing card effects, and it was just a big crap show. It was just who knew how cards were activating and resolving, so this was a big step for Konami to make the game a lot better. Now, how problem solving card text works is there's now a standardized way of writing card effects. It goes like this: you have your conditions, that is followed by a colon. Then you have your costs or activation requirements, that is followed by a semicolon. Then you have your resolutions. Today we're going to be focusing on mainly conditions and activation requirements, as resolutions can get very complicated and there's a lot that we need to dig into there. So today we're just going to be going over mainly conditions and activation requirements. So let's first off talk about conditions. Conditions are things that need to be met before you activate the card, and everything that happens before a colon will be the condition. For example, on here on Lightning Storm, we see the condition is if you control no face-up cards. So that means that is the condition in order to activate it. It is not what happens when you activate it, it happens before you activate it. That's the best way to understand conditions. Here's another example, like Ash Blossom and Joyous Springs. It is just when a card is activated that includes any of these effects, colon, that means that is the condition that needs to be met. So we all know what Ash Blossom's 3 things do. When the condition of sending a card from deck to the graveyard is met, then you can activate Ash Blossom. That is the main thing. So most things that happen are how many times you can activate this card or what needs to be met before you activate the card. That is what conditions are. Let's talk about activation requirements. Activation requirements, or cost, as a lot of people will say, are things that happen when you activate the card, but before resolving the effect of the card. This is going to be everything before the semicolon. So when activating the card, you need to do everything before the semicolon before the card is going to resolve. For example, Lightning Storm, we see the text that says, activate one of these effects, semicolon. So that means the declaration of that effect is actually what you're needing to do when activating the card and before resolving the entire effect. You need to declare which one you're going to be doing: destroying all monsters in attack mode or destroying all back row. Let's take a look at our other example, Ash Blossom. Everything that happens after the colon but before the semicolon says discard this card. That is the activation requirement, or cost. In this case, it is absolutely cost, since you are losing a card. A lot of people do not like to use the targeting monsters before the semicolon as cost, but it's more of an activation requirement. That's absolutely true, but for the sake of making things easier and go faster, I always say cost when I'm playing the game, just so that people understand and know right away. So what other relevance do colons and semicolons have to the game? Well, if you see a colon or semicolon in a monster effect, this means that it starts a chain. That means that you have to meet the activation requirements and the conditions, and then your opponent will be able to have a chance to respond before the card resolves, starting a chain. A good example of this is Bestial Magnamut. Magnamut is going to target a light or dark monster in the graveyard before resolving the chain. That is the activation requirement. Your opponent then will get a chance to respond before the card resolves. If your opponent does not respond with the card, that means you can now resolve the card effect and follow the steps that it's saying. So you will banish the monster that you targeted and then summon the Bestial Magnamut to your field. What happens when a monster card has an effect that does not include a colon or semicolon. This means it does not start a chain. A good example of this is Bright Blue's effect to special summon. It does not include a colon or semicolon. This means that it's actually going to be able to be activated and not chained to. So you can special summon this card, and your opponent will then have a chance to respond after the summon. But of course, since it's your turn, you get player priority to activate the effect of blue because it has met the conditions of special summoning. These are the main two differences in cards and effects. Now, just to let you guys know, spells and trap cards will always start a chain unless it's something like Branded Opening, where you banish it from graveyard instead of destroying the card. So this kind of wraps up the majority of this one. There's so much more to go over. This is a very simple explanation of these effects, but I think it's a very good place to start understanding how cards are structured and activated. I really want you guys to be able to understand how to use problem-solving card text to help make your gameplay even better than it already is. Thank you guys so much for watching. Comment, like, subscribe. There'll be many more to come. Thank you guys.